Nick, let's go on. So this is iOS Workshop 2, in a series of 2, thanks to the ending quarter here. So tonight we're going to be discussing event-driven architecture, which is this idea that whenever you touch the screen or perform another action on the device, this triggers an event, which causes an action to occur in the underlying code. So for example, last week when we made a Hello World app that happened when you press the button, the event there was pressing the button, and that caused the text to change to Hello World. We're going to be demonstrating actually not some basic touch events as it says there, but the motion event. iOS devices right have that ability where you can do a shake gesture and something will happen. So we're going to go ahead and do that. With that in mind, though, it's necessary to first discuss the idea of the responder chain, which is the way in which an iOS application responds to events which the user has enacted. For example, two types of objects are passed depending on the event type. The first is for normal touch events, i.e. what you would do just touching at your touch screen normally, what most users end up doing. And then the second is for motion or remote events, whether that's a remotely occurring event or an event that, for example, you shake the device, rotate the device, left or right, as is common. But ultimately, all of these have the same goal, and that is to respond to the event in such a way that whatever action you'd like to happen does happen. I wanted to include up here some typical responder examples. So this idea of the initial view, which is your initial item, for example, a button, which is a subclass of view. What that means is it's how best to describe it? It is the view object is the main view for the screen, i.e. the window that you see when you open the application. And then each item under that, like a button or a text view, is then a sub-object of that view, which is to say that the view acts in kind of a parent-child sort of way. So with that in mind, you have the initial view, which is your button or text field or whatever, and that goes to the view for the application, or for the current screen. And then that goes to the view controller, which is that code behind that we worked with. This is going off the example on the right. And then back into the window and the entire application. Now the reason I've included two typical responder examples up here is because this can vary, which is to say that you as the developer can then select the path that you would like the responder to take. You can do that via several different programming operations, none of which we're going to get into this evening. That's a little more complex than can be handled relatively quickly. But of course, there are hundreds of Apple documents on that if you're interested. This evening, though, let's focus on some motion events. So these are not automatically sent to the view, they're triggered on, which is to say that when you shake the device, it's not automatically going to be translated into that view controller shown, as in the mouse in this one, shown right there by the number 3 on the right side, the view controller. So instead, we're going to go ahead and change that as you like it, so that we can take a sound file and play it when we shake the device. Kind of fun. First of all, though, if you want to take your MacBook, or I hope you're on a MacBook since this is Apple, and then just go to this website. I've included two sounds. One is that of an air horn, and the other is the Windows XP startup sound. If you want to use a different sound, by all means go ahead. It just needs to be an MP3, and it can be as long as you like. But if you want to go to that URL, I'll leave that up there. And then once you're done with that, go ahead and open Xcode. So, yes. So, we're having fun over there. New project, and bam. This is going to be a single view application, similar to last week. We're not doing anything that involves multiple views or data or anything like that. So, go ahead and tap single view application. Product name, let's make this product name let's call it motion response. Organization name, whatever you like, organization identifier, whatever you like. Language will be Swift, and the devices will be universal, just like lesson. So it's going to ask you where you'd like to put it. Anywhere is fine. Bam, there you go. All right, so we have our motion response, and if you recall from last week's lesson, we have our main.storyboard, which is the main view controller. We have our view controller code behind, where we'll be doing all the work today. The best part about today's lesson is that there is no front-end UI development. It's just dealing with actions, and those actions are going to be put in by our motion. So, coming back to this view controller Swift class, what you see is we have, of course, our view did load, which is where we're going to put our first bit of code here, and that is, or excuse me, no it's not. Let's go down here, and let's grab some code that I had previously done, so I don't admit that, because this is a pretty complex little string. What we're doing is we're taking a property for this view control, and that is an audio player type. So we are just creating an audio player out of this UI player and throwing it in here. This is going to be called var audio player. So go ahead and add that line, import AV Foundation up at the top. And what that'll do is the AV Foundation series of classes is something that allows you to play audio and video into your app. So similar to any other language, whether it's Java, Python, anything like that. Actually, exactly like Python. You can import certain different kits that you use with your application, like we're doing here. In this case, you need the AV audio player, or the AV audio player class from the AV Foundation library. So, var audio player is equal to try exclamation point. And so what this is introducing in Swift is the idea of having a type that is not necessarily initialized, but in the event that it fails initialization, will not trigger an error. And I'm doing that for simplicity's sake here, because we don't want to go ahead and write a whole try-catch block, if you're familiar with that. So go ahead and put try exclamation point, which will try creating the AV audio player. Contents of URL, so we're going to take a URL, and then NSURL, file URL with path, nsbundle.mainbundle.path for resource, and then airhorn.mp3. I'll be using the airhorn here, but the idea that we're going to go through is we'll be actually adding a folder with the sound files in, and then this will map to the sound folder and pull those sound files in. So let's go ahead and create that sound folder now, just so iOS has some idea of what it's dealing with. Up here in Xcode, what you can do is you can create a folder up here on motion response, and go down to, gosh, new group. And this will create a new group. From there, we're just going to call this, and typically it can be called anything. Resources is a fun name, there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and add some new files into this resource. Excuse me, we're going to go ahead and add an existing file into these resources. So, add files to motion response. And I'm going to go ahead and select, okay, we'll use the XP since I know where that is on the machine. Right here, bam. So we select that and then click add from wherever it is in the file system. And this will go ahead and add the winxp.mp3. So that is now added to your application. And if we move back to view control here, you're going to see you have var audio player, and then I'm going to change this up. You can change it to whatever your file name is. Windows XP or WinXP of type MP3. So then this will search through your application directory when this has been loaded off to another device, and it will look for that winxp.mp3 and set it up as the file to be used, the URL to the file to be used for the AV audio player. Okay? So now let's go ahead and set up this AV audio player to be played when a motion action happens. So, audio player dot prepare to play. And what that's going to do is it's going to make the audio player load the sound and get everything ready so that when an action happens that requires the device to play the sound, it will be ready to play the sound. Simple as that. One second, something else. That is delightful. There we go, much better. Okay. Let's move this over. Back. Okay. So now that you have that audio player down, prepare to play it there, we need to add something that I talked about earlier from the PowerPoint presentation. This idea that the view controller is not the first responder to a motion event is important because it means that when we send a motion event to this view controller, nothing is going to happen. It's not prepared to accommodate it, and it's not in the response stack. So let's go ahead and add that now. And there is actually a function that overrides from UIKit. So we're going to go ahead and type override func. And that's called can become first responder, which returns a Boolean type. Now, as you might have guessed, we do want this to become the first responder. So it's as simple as just typing return true. And there you go. You have now made this view controller the first responder. And what that means is every motion event that gets triggered will go to this view controller immediately. So now let's make another function here. And this is really the most important part. This is going to process the action that is being sent through the response stack into this view controller. So let's make that override func motion ended. And so what this is saying is when the motion ends, it's going to go ahead and throw this event in. And you can see that actually the motion UI event subtype is of a type UI event, which is, as I discussed, part of the event architecture. And with event UI event, so that's that event actually getting passed in there. So you have a type and an event. Of course, we need to know what that type is. So we've cast it as motion. Let's go ahead and say if motion equals dot motion shape.
Wait, how do you get the stuff to change when you colors?
It should be doing that on
It is automatically does it?
It has to be like exactly the way you type it, the syntax, otherwise it's not going to write it, so there might be something that you're typing wrong.
Okay.
I'm so confused. I think I just didn't put it in the right brackets.
Yeah.
That will do it. So it's important to know. What you have here is you have your two sets of brackets, and that's class view controller. So this is your view controller class. And then within it, you have this function here, which should be separated out. And it's its own set of brackets. And that is a specific function within the view controller class that you're going to be using. And of course, within that, we have our if statement here, which is going to perform an action if the motion type is dot motion shape. So now, if we want the audio to play, it's as simple as typing audio player dot play. Not that. It's also worth noting that if you're used to another language, I'm actually not that into iOS and Swift development. You may find yourself throwing in semicolons. Swift doesn't use semicolons, don't worry about it. So there it is, audio player.play. And essentially what you created here is something that takes this event in, it's prepared the audio player, and then since this is the first responder, it will respond to it with this function, and it will play the audio if a shake event occurs on the device. So let's go ahead and let's go up here. Let's hit the play button. And what this is going to do is it's going to do a compilation. And there's an iOS simulator, it's very large. That's okay, we don't need to see anything, let's let it boot. And you have the typical iOS beta errors. Oh, there we go, there's our application. Okay, so you may notice that there's nothing there because we didn't design user interface, and that's okay. However, something cool about the iOS simulator that you may not know is that you have the ability to actually simulate some events in here. So, for example, if you wanted to simulate a touch ID thing going on, you could simulate a finger touch, matching or not matching. You could simulate a memory warning, which is something useful if you're doing game development or something very memory intensive. You could change the keyboard and the way that worked. I guess you can also do external display mirroring if you're on an iPad or something and projecting. But we're not interested in any of that, so let's go ahead and hit this. Let's go ahead and turn up the volume first of all. And then let's go ahead and hit this shake gesture. And sure enough, you hear a sound. So let's do that again. Hardware, shake gesture. And there you go. So what you've done is you've created a basic event response to an action that the user creates. And of course, you could also do things like if motion anyway, since I'm not seeing what I expected to see. Oh, wait, no, I am seeing what I expected to see. So, in here, and you're not seeing it because it's only the displays mirrored anymore. If motion equals dot, I'm hoping I can pick it up here. Yes, there we go. So, what I touched on earlier in my presentation was the idea that there are additional event subtypes that you can have occurring. For example, the ones that you see in here, remote control, all of these remote control options are from the presentation when I discussed the idea of remote options that also trigger events. So motion or remote events include shaking or, for example, if you have something like a pair of earbuds which remotely trigger the play or pause buttons, you can go ahead and do that here. What should we do now? I expected this to take longer than it did. But that's a good thing, and we're,
How about user interface for it?
okay, what do you want the user interface to do? You know what, we'll make this audience driven. What do you want the user interface to do?
I don't know, what do you guys want it to do?
Here, let's go ahead and make it, switch the sound in place. There we go. So everybody go ahead and open up your main.storyboard file. And if you go ahead and click, and it should be showing up here. Let's just go to that. All right, if you go ahead and go to your main.storyboard file here, you will see you've got a boring blank storyboard. And that's okay. Let's go in here and let's filter for button. There, you got a button. Just like that. Throw that button on. Notice that it doesn't work because of the Xcode data. That's delightful. That's wonderful. There we go. Okay. And let's go ahead and, if we can, dock this button up in the corner. We're not going to worry about relative UIs or anything like that because it doesn't really matter for this button. Let's go ahead and change the text to change sound. There we go. And move it over again. Yeah. So, you have a change sound button. Let's go ahead and wire that up, similar to how we did last week. Okay? So, change sound. We want to do a control drag, and that's going to give us the option to create an action, and that action name will be change sound. It will be of type any object, the touch up inside is fine, and the argument is the sending button. Let's click connect. So there you see we have a function change town. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Oh, let's go ahead and get rid of that. That's in the There we go, that's fine, that's what it's doing. So, in change town, let's do this. Okay. Let's go ahead and copy this, and change the instance of audio point to point to a new sound video. There we go. So, within that, let's go in here and let's change it to say air horn. Now, of course, what we could do here is we could set up an if statement chain and switch whichever type of sound it was over to the other one. But for the sake of brevity, let's go ahead and just change it to air horn. So when you press this button, it will change the type of sound to air horn.mp3. So let's go ahead and give it a play. Okay, I can already tell you I don't think this will work because we forgot something, but that's okay, let's see what happens. It's all about experimentation. So you see a shake gesture as the Windows XP sound, then we hit change sound and we get an error. Yeah, okay. It's fine. Very fine. Okay, so this should work, and if it doesn't, I'm completely at a loss as to why, and you'll have to consult the documentation. But that's, again, something that you'll find yourself doing quite a bit as a developer. So there you go, you hear that? That's it, and it doesn't work. All right, well, what a fireworks-filled conclusion to the evening. I do apologize for this, and given the time, I'm sure we can work out why this is. I have a feeling it's due to the fact that we are assigning a result, or we are assigning to this variable from a location where it should not be assigned to, that is within a function, and then that is not transferring out of the function and into the real class itself. Let's not get hung up on that, even though it is a bit of a problem. Just note that this pattern of changing the first responder to the view controller itself, and this idea of performing an action based on an event is the most important paradigm that we've covered here this evening. That is absolutely critical, and you'll see that whether that's an Android or iOS or maybe for Windows as well. This whole idea of event-driven architecture driving from the user interaction over to what the system actually does to respond to it. With that in mind, that's our presentation for this evening, as short as it was. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I left that up there.
Oh, okay.
It was too sweet for me to eat, so.
Well, on the off chance, are there any questions I can answer regarding anything we've covered here? I know that yeah.
Does the video get posted? Like,
the video does get posted, yes.
It
And
will.
actually, we'll post the code later this evening. And, even better, I will figure out what exactly I did wrong there and post the edited code, which changes the sound. So that'll be quite nice. Look for that in an email. Anything else I can answer? That's fine.
Have to email us.
oh, yeah, I already added you.
Sorry it was rather abrupt this evening, guys, but I've got 3 midterms coming up and I haven't had a chance to really so I want to thank you all for coming out. There's few people as there are. I have a feeling that once again midterms are killing everybody. So, okay.
Alright, thank you. Thanks.
I'm sorry about being confused, that's okay, it is confusing. I mean, heck, I got this. Yeah. You want to add anything, Mr. President? Okay.
Things that-
But actually, next week, we should have a special treat. We're having a professional developer who actually develops for a living come in, and he's going to talk a little bit about integrating web services with applications. So he actually does this full-time for a living, and doesn't make mistakes, he doesn't. And he'll go ahead and guide you through pulling data from a website down into your application, doing stuff with it. So that should be exciting, and be sure to look through it. Yeah.
How about the other way, from your phone to?
As far as I know, he's only covering pulling down, but from what I gather, he'll be using REST APIs, which of course HTTP, Git, Post, so you can do both. Yeah. If you like, actually, we're talking with him now via email, so I will be sure to put the request regarding posting data from iOS devices or whatever.